Now, this is a segment, and I guess today's Fox Day, regarding the terrorist attacks and Obama at a baseball game, etc. And I'm going to play the clips from Ted Cruz, Kasich, Clinton, and Donald Trump. And to be honest with you, pretty much all of them were in some vein reasonable statements until you get to Kasich. And I'll make my commentary on Kasich after you hear the 4 clips.
Well, the presidential candidates weighing in on the bombings in Brussels, one taking direct aim at President Obama, who's traveling overseas, for a lack of attention to the terror attacks. Listen to this.
ISIS has declared jihad. They have declared their intention to murder.
What looks to be fairly sophisticated, coordinated attack is deeply distressing.
I'm a little surprised that the president is going to a baseball game. Had I been president, I would have cut short my visit.
The day will come when ISIS no longer exists.
In my opinion, this is just the beginning. It will get worse and worse because we are lax and we are foolish.
Now, this is my problem with Kasich. The president is on one of the highest profile diplomatic missions, whether you agree with the mission or not, in possibly, the last 20 to 30 years. Okay? He's in Cuba trying to reestablish formal relations with Cuba. For this guy to say that he should have cut that short and went directly back to Washington, my question is, to do what? What exactly was he going to do from Washington that he couldn't have done from Cuba, i.e. communicate with his security people, his intelligence people, okay, and to communicate with the foreign leaders? He could do that from anywhere in the world. So for him to cut his trip short to do that is fucking ridiculous. And Kasich is basically just trying to make a name for himself in this particular arena. President Obama did exactly the right thing, and that's further backed up by the president of France after they had their terrorist attack, where he said that the people need to get back to normal activity as quickly as possible. Okay? So that's my comment regarding that. Now, here are 2 gentlemen, one a Democrat, obviously one a Republican, and the Republican is going to basically, he's just going to misunderstand what the purpose of terrorism is. Terrorism is a means to an end, okay? You terrorize people in order to get them to come over to your way of thinking. But the Republican guy on the right just doesn't get it. So let me play that clip.
More on this, let's bring in Simon Rosenberg, president of the New Democrat Network and a former campaign advisor to President Clinton, and Hogan Gidley, Republican strategist and former Huckabee campaign communications manager. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Good to be here, Abby.
All right, so Hogan, we just played some sound there. Governor Kasich, pretty strong words against President Obama, saying, while you're hanging with the Castro brothers at a baseball game, the country is mourning what happened in Brussels. And it's not just Governor Kasich. I mean, you have a lot of people today scratching their heads, wondering who is advising the president, telling him that this looks good.
Right. The optics out here, the optics we all saw are horrible. Why would you be sitting at a baseball game when the world is, quite frankly, concerned, terrified about a potential terrorist attack? He's cozying up to Castro. He treats him better than he does Bibi Netanyahu.
See, and that's a bunch of bullshit because President Obama is trying to reestablish relations with the Cubans, okay? And he talks about his treatment of Bibi Netanyahu. Bibi Netanyahu totally disrespected him over the last 4 years in his dealings. Yet and still, President Obama has been the one that has supported Israel to the tune of $1 billion for their Iron Dome missile defense project, and for their David Sling missile defense project to the tune of $3 billion. And that doesn't even mention the additional $3 billion in foreign aid. So, that's a bunch of bullshit. There's, Obama, the United States, has not given any foreign aid to Cuba. No missile defense systems, which obviously wouldn't really be necessary. No, nothing. So for him to equate the two is a bunch of bullshit.
But that's a different story altogether. I was in a room full of Democrats last night on another network, and they were just looking at me with their mouths open saying, why is the president, someone that we support, someone that we like, actually going to a baseball game and sitting there talking to ESPN as opposed to coming back to this country and reassuring and assuring the American people that the United States is leading this fight against these jihadists, against these terrorists. Instead, he's in a communist country with a dictator at the helm watching baseball.
Now, I don't believe that any Democrat said that to this guy, period. So he's making this, I believe he's making this up.
Looks horrible.
Well, Simon, though, it seems that this happens time and time again. When a big event happens, a tragic event, the president is absent. He's mentally, it seems he's not there, and physically he's not there.
Now, Abby Hoffman used to be at MSNBC, okay? And she was pretty middle of the roadish, even though she is a Republican. As soon as she got over to Fox, she fell right in line with the Fox marching orders. And I laugh at it sometimes just to see what being paid by an individual network will do for your point of view.
Abby, come on. I think. Look, you had a previous segment where you discussed about how one of the goals of terrorism is to disrupt regular activity. I mean, he's the president of the United States. He's got lots of responsibilities around the world. And what happened in Cuba, this is a big deal. I mean, the entire world almost went to war 50 years ago in Cuba, and we're now working to reconcile something that has been a big foreign policy challenge for the United States. It was appropriate what he did yesterday. It's appropriate for him to have continued on to Argentina where he is today. He can do more than one thing at a time. And I recognize, look, the bigger issue about whether we are fighting an effective war against ISIS is separated, I think, from what happened with the president, in my mind, over the last couple of days. I think he did the right thing. We cannot allow the president to be terrorized and disrupt normal activity by something like what happened in Belgium.
Yeah, see, because there are terrorist attacks at least once every 2 or 3 months. And for the president to drop whatever he's doing every time there's a terrorist attack, he wouldn't be able to get anything done. So, that argument it doesn't hold water.
No, I'm saying it is. They are separate, and you can do more things than more than one thing at a time. But you're at a baseball game and you're commenting on the world stage in terrorism. That's what's so silly about this. And for him to make some claim about the whole point of terrorism is to disrupt our lives, that's not the point of terrorism.
That is the point of terrorism, to disrupt our lives in order, which is a means in order to get us to come over to their thinking, i.e. Converting to Islam and coming up underneath Sharia law. So this guy, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
The point of terrorism is to kill people and blow things up.
It's not the point of terrorism.
Is after you do that, yes, people are concerned and it does disrupt their lives. But he looks completely disconnected, sitting there talking about a serious issue facing the entire world from a baseball game. You can separate the two, but get out of the stands, go to a podium and have a conversation with the American people and the world about what this country should be doing.
What?
See, he's more concerned about the optics of the situation rather than the substance of the situation, and the two are different. And that's what Republicans tend to do. They want to make a good show, but when it comes down to actually doing something, they're left wanting.
I want to get both your thoughts on this. I mean, the candidates are all speaking out after the attacks in Brussels yesterday. Cruz coming out pretty strongly saying that we should patrol Muslim communities here in the United States. Simon, this is something we have not even heard Donald Trump say before. Should he be in hot water for this statement?
Listen, I think the great challenge we have now is that the only way we're going to defeat ISIS is through extraordinary cooperation with Muslim states in the Middle East and our European allies. And in the last few days, you had Republican candidates insult Muslims, which is going to make it far harder for us to actually coordinate effectively against ISIS. And Donald Trump has even talked about ending NATO, right? And so, you know, the hard reality here is this is going to take a long time, and we need to work closely with our allies to defeat ISIS, not repel them and make it harder to build an effective coalition.
See, and that's the problem that I have with Ted Cruz, because, I mean, Ted Cruz is a fucking idiot. We have precedents here. Cruz is talking about, because there's an issue with Islamists, that now we need to start patrolling their neighborhoods. Okay? So when we have problems with white supremacists, okay, blowing stuff up and killing people, should we then be patrolling white supremacist neighborhoods? Okay, now the precedents I'm talking about is when we were at war with Japan, they turned around and rounded up Japanese Americans and put them in internment camps. Is that the next step that Ted Cruz is going to want to pursue? Rounding up all Muslims and putting them in internment camps? Because that's what it's sounding like to me.
Bring you guys right back, Hogan. We want to get your thoughts on that as well right after this break. Welcome back to Happening Now. We want to bring back in Simon Rosenberg, president of the New Democrat Network and a former campaign advisor to President Clinton, and Hogan Gidley, Republican strategist and former Huckabee campaign communications manager. Guys, welcome back to the show. As we were talking about the candidates responding to the attacks in Brussels yesterday, Hogan, Ted Cruz coming out really the strongest we have heard him on terrorism, saying that we should patrol Muslim communities here in the United States. He's gotten some criticism for that. Do you think it's fair?
I'm not sure if it's fair, but look, I mean, he's reading polling. He polls every day, and he understands Donald Trump owns this issue. You remember Donald Trump famously said we should ban Muslims from coming to this country. The pundits freaked out. They said this was a bad move. They said this would ultimately sink his campaign, as they said many times over the last 9 months. And instead, his poll numbers went up, and he ended up winning several states, and in large measure, the GOP resoundingly agreed with Donald Trump and said that this was an issue they agreed with, that we should ban Muslims from coming to this country. Now
that's not true. I mean, give me a fucking break. These guys, okay, anyway, what the GOP is saying is that they need to stop Muslims from coming to this country if they come originally from either Syria or Iraq or Iran or countries within that region, okay, especially the region that they're fighting in. So it's not all Muslims. It's not Muslims from France. It's not Muslims from Germany. It's not Muslims from the United Kingdom. It's just Muslims from that region. But he's trying to basically throw a blanket over all Muslims, which is bullshit.
People can be scared of that. People can be upset with that. I understand. But in time of war, and make no mistake, we are at war, you want someone clear, decisive, and concise, with a concise message. And his message basically is, we don't want Muslims here. I'm going to keep them out.
So basically, this guy's trying to say we're at war with all Muslims. Come on, give me a break. Basically what he's saying is that all American Muslims, we're at war with them also. I mean, you know, their arguments, you know, they throw this huge net over everything, and it just makes them look totally stupid for anybody who takes the time to actually, you know, sit there and listen to what they're saying.
Build a wall. We're going to keep out immigrants.
We're not building a wall.
Destroy ISIS. It's simple. It's clear. I understand there's nuance on both sides. He's being clear, and people are gravitating toward that message. You can't out-Trump Trump. Cruz is trying to do that here, but I think he's going to fall a little short.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that play out this election cycle so far. We will leave it there.
All right, so again, you know, the Republicans go batshit crazy. Okay, they want to go out to left field. They want, you know, these guys, they want to be Joe McCarthy more than anything else, and I just don't understand why.